Welcome back to another Entertainment Banter. Thank you for tuning in with Matt and Joel. Today's banter is going to be about our favorite, who we always bring up all the time in all our podcasts. We figured we might as well talk about them since some shit's going down with them. Disney! Don't we all just
the
love
happiest
Disney?
place.
Okay, so Disney.
Yes.
What's going on with Disney, Matt?
Well, Joel, I have said for a while that Disney, in the last few years, has accumulated quite an empire with Marvel and Lucasfilm. You know, they have ESPN. They've always had the parks. The parks are growing. We're building new parks overseas all the time. We have new franchises like Pixar creating stuff. But my theory is, just like the Roman Empire, they're getting too big for their britches too fast, and I think they're ready for a downfall. And I think we're starting to see some of that take place. Now, will Disney ever die? No. Will it ever disappear from the face of the earth? No. But I do feel that there will be this era of them burning bridges with customers and them burning bridges with their own employees. And I think it's because of how it is currently being run and all of the stuff that they have decided to attempt to do. So I will mention a few things, but then I want you, Joel, to elaborate, because I tend to banter more than you.
Are you a disgruntled employee that used to work there?
What are you talking about?
Did you?
I don't think either one of us have worked for Disney.
Never?
I don't know what to talk. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think you have ever worked there. I don't know.
Maybe.
Anyways, let's
let's move on.
Well, let's move on. So, where they're successful is obviously all the things I mentioned: Lucasfilm, Marvel. You know, they bought Pixar. They have Netflix original shows. You know, they're building parks, and in the parks, they're reconstructing the parks, and they're making new shows in the parks, and they're creating new rides in the parks. So, Broadway, they've got all these new hits on Broadway, like Frozen. You know, like what?
It's not open yet. It's not a hit yet. You can't say it's a hit when it's not a hit yet.
Well, I'm sorry. I thought everything Disney did was a hit.
Oh, I don't know. Probably.
Well, one thing that I've noticed that I don't know if you've noticed, but this day and age, they're really hell-bent on dates. If they say something's going to open, it's going to open on that date. And it doesn't matter if it's ready or not. And that goes for feature films, that goes for entertainment in the parks, Broadway, everything, you name it. And it doesn't matter what kind of pitfalls they run into, or if they're ready, or if the show quality is diminished as a result. They'll just do it. And I just feel like that is kind of like a low-quality kind of thing. You know, it's like a prideful thing. But we were talking because you had mentioned that Disney's pulling the plug with Netflix.
They are.
I thought that was kind of a huge mistake. But we'll go into that, obviously. That's a bigger issue in a way, because not just Disney, everybody's going to start doing something like that with pulling away from companies like Hulu and Netflix and starting their own online services and whatnot. But what do you think about all that? Just let's start with that conversation.
Well, the reason why we're even talking about this is because I noticed that their stock dropped quite a bit during the last month. I think it was like 20 points or something like that. It was a good chunk. It almost went under $100 again. And I mean, Disney's not known to have stock that is over $100 because they usually split it when it's around this range, anyways.
Right.
From what I've noticed in the past, and they haven't split it in a long time. So what I noticed is that when it went down, I wanted to you research a little bit of like why it went down and what's in the news. Well, one of them was that they pulled out of Netflix, and they want their own service like Netflix. So that means every Disney program on Netflix is going to come off of Netflix, and then they're going to charge a monthly service fee for their own version. The thing is, Disney doesn't have a service set up yet. They don't. Netflix is already so deep in the game, one of the original players out there, or one of the most successful players, I would say, is already so evolved. Disney's starting from scratch. I mean, whether or not they can pull someone from Netflix to come work for them, who knows? Money talks. You talk to someone and say, hey, come help us do this. But will theirs be just as good? I mean, yes, it'll do well just because it's Disney movies. People are going to want to see Disney movies.
Let me ask you that right there. That was kind of my question to you. Is the company Disney as a whole enough to make that successful? I mean,
I think
they have a lot of media.
I think they can. I think they can. It's just going to be bumpy in the beginning because they're not going. It's not going to be smooth. It's not going to be a smooth transition. It's going to be. I mean, I could be proven wrong, and it'd be great because some people have stock in that company. But
so, as a customer who, for the last I don't know how many years, has been paying $7.99 for Netflix or $10 depending on what, or $15 depending on what service you had. Keep in mind now, people are paying. Because I had this conversation with somebody else that works in entertainment outside of what we do, and it's interesting because I've said it before and I'll say it again. Cable's dying, and so as a result, companies like Spectrum and former Time Warner and all these other companies like DirecTV, they're gonna lose out on the cable bill. So what they're gonna do is instead of the cable being the expensive part, it's going to be the internet.
Yes.
And so now people are going to pay $200 for internet.
It already is kind of like that.
Right. So if you, or whatever, they choose to make you pay, because they're going to realize they have us by the balls. Like if you want your streaming channels, if you want your Netflix, if you want your Hulu, if you want your Amazon Prime, if you want your Disney, whatever the fuck they're going to call it, the point is you're going to have to start paying for all those individual online services in addition to your internet. And now it's worse than whatever. You can take whatever highest cable bill you've ever had in your life. It's going to be costing more to do those things, and you're going to have 1,000 more bills than just what it was with cable.
Well, I think in the future it's gonna flip flop. So right now you're paying a lump sum to get cable with satellite or with internet. Right? So you're paying a combined fee, just like the landline. Everyone thought the landline was going to go away. Landline's still alive. Not as strong as it used to be, but landline's still there because people still do faxes. People still want a phone at home, So I think what's going to happen is that cable's going to die completely eventually. Cable will be dead. Network television will be network television because there's still local news and all that jazz. But they'll start doing, like Time Warner will start doing lump sums with you get this internet package, we'll supply a Netflix package with Hulu, with they're gonna start packaging the streaming things with them. They're gonna start partnering. I don't see why they wouldn't start doing that, and why right now there's no reason to be in talks because it's still a shaky ground. But we see it coming. So there probably are people having meetings about it, about how they can start packaging. Like how do we do our 50 megabyte down megabyte internet with, say, like they buy from us, and then they get Netflix and Hulu with that,
Right, but what if the Netflix that you get through the Disney package is only shows approved by Disney? I would be very surprised if Warner Brothers would allow people that buy the Disney package to have any of the WB type stuff, such as like The Flash or Arrow.
You never know. I mean, they all get kickbacks, so I mean, like, when you ordered sport packages through the cable companies and everything, like, you had to choose between different sports and all that, of course. And the higher up you go, like if you wanted this channel, you had to get all these other channels you didn't give a shit about, but you had to pay the extra to get that channel.
So but those backfired tremendously. Like, people were very upset about that, especially on a local level. Like, I know in LA, the Dodgers, you can only watch it on a certain cable provider.
Yes.
And if you didn't have that provider, you couldn't even watch local games. That is like, that goes back to what I'm saying about that really terrible customer service where, you can blame the Dodgers for that because the Dodgers are the ones that made that deal. But it really would piss off your fan base. You know what I'm saying? Like, after a certain point in time, if people are being told or dictated to what they can and what they're allowed to watch, I think it's grounds for some serious upheaval. People will get upset, pissed off by it.
People will get upset with Disney every time they raise their prices to the park. People blow their steam, but for whatever reason, people are still paying it. So I think that when Disney does this and breaks off...
I will disagree with that to
Why are you cutting me off? Why are you cutting me off?
Because you know as well as I do,
you're a jerk.
When you have certain individuals that work for a company, they get certain perks and benefits, and they're not paying for those things, those services. The only people that are paying that come once a year, so of course they're going to pay that once a year price. But you're referring to the people that come on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. Those individuals, yeah, they keep coming because they don't have to pay as much or as frequently as some of the other people do, if that makes any sense.
I suppose.
But, like, let's take the movies, for example. Rogue One had to be, I would say, at least 40% of it had to be reshot. I mean, that's because they didn't like how it ended. They didn't like the film as a whole.
Really?
Right now, the Han Solo movie, they have to reshoot a bunch of stuff. So to me, that's a lot of time, money, and effort wasted. The company, that's what I'm saying, like, the company gets really big in its britches and spends a lot of money, makes mistakes, spends even more money, and then just passes that on to the customers or the employees, whether they fire a couple of people to make up costs or they give someone two jobs that should be like two people's jobs. It's now one person's job.
It's a reactive company, not a proactive company.
Right, exactly. But my point is, I feel like people will get fed up with it. And there's areas in the country that I can tell you, there's just some people that cannot afford to pay for all those services, and they won't. I think that's the thing that I think they forget, because when you live in a culture, in an environment where you don't have to worry about money or income like other outside people do, you forget that it's a big deal. We were talking about a friend recently about buying homes or whatnot, but my point is, some people in the past have sold homes, and then even though they made a profit, they weren't able to find a new home because they couldn't afford it based on the market at that time.
No, if you're going to sell a house, like in this market today in California, you should be moving out of state to a cheaper place.
Right. But my point is, sometimes people don't look that far ahead. Does that make sense? And I think Disney as a whole, I feel like that's what they're doing right now. I mean, the fact that the two new movies that they've produced, besides the Episode 7, the outside movies, the movies that Disney's using as a platform to test the waters to see if this will be successful, making like expanded universe type stories, to screw both of those up where you have to basically redo 40% of the films. I mean, that's, it says to me like you're more worried about quantity versus quality, and you're also worried about pushing dates as opposed to pushing story. That's just my personal opinion about it.
Their idea is to get it out there as soon as possible, and they'll get the money in return to pay back what they're doing, it seems like.
Well, but the thing is, Princess and the Frog, right? That was one of the last animated movies. In Disney's mind, that tanked. Now, for me, I enjoyed that movie. I thought it was well done movie.
Yes, it was.
It really makes me think back to, maybe I'm just old school now, but once a year, a Disney animated feature would come out. And now, Disney is pumping out literally 7 or 8 movies at a time. And it's not, in the past, I guess what I'm saying is it was exciting to see the new trailer. It was exciting to see what Disney was going to put out next. And because we weren't spoiled brats and we weren't given everything we wanted, it was, when it came, it was special. You were excited. Even if it was not an amazing movie, it was still exciting to see the new Disney movie of the year and go watch it. But now it's like, there's like 7 or 8 movies. It didn't do well in the theaters. We'll send it right to video next month, and blah, 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 and we'll pump more shit out, and blah, 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 blah. And in a way, it's almost like they're just creating crap to fill content for online streaming. Like, if we're going to have our own private online screening, we've got to fill it with a bunch of crap now. So let's just start pumping crap out.
I don't know if it's crap, but I mean, they have multiple different companies now producing movies for them. I mean, you're talking about the Disney film, and now that's they do pump out one Disney movie still a year, I think, or it's 2, just like you said. But then they also have a live action. Buena Vista still produces a movie. What they call it under Disney now, like Pirates or whatever. And then you have Pixar producing movies. Then you have Lucasfilm producing movies, and now you have Marvel Studios producing movies. Yes, they're all under the same umbrella of the Disney logo, but they're all different companies still producing movies.
Yes.
But recently we've been flooded with a shit ton of Marvel. I mean, that's all we've been flooded with lately, or superhero movies, because of the success of some Marvel films and the ability. And you're making a profit off the nerds, so you're having people push off of Fox is doing it, Sony's doing it, Warner Brothers is doing it. Disney's doing it. So it seems like we're just getting a flood of a single taste of a movie, but in reality, these are all different companies still working individually still with Disney money.
Yes, absolutely.
So
yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree. I understand what you're saying about the individual companies within a company. That part, that's not the issue for me. But like, for example, if they were to start, like for example, before we even inherited movies franchises across the board, like let's just say that Disney Channel. Let's start with the channels, because originally it was just a Disney Channel, right? You get a variety of shows on it. Then they turned it to Disney and Playhouse Disney or something, or Disney and Disney XD, or whatever the case may be. So even with those, like that was the cable version of what we're dealing with now. Now we're dealing with like the app version and the online service version. But before it was like multiple channels for cable, and if you wanted the premium channels, you'd have to pay the premium prices for those outside of channels. So what I'm saying is like they did the same thing. They pumped out a bunch of those teeny bopper shows because they just wanted to fill the airtime with crap, so that if you were to watch Disney Channel, that's all you got was like 5 episodes of the same crappy teen show, and then you got 5 episodes of the new crappy teen show. Like, Disney Channel became obsolete. They actually created an obsolete channel, and then what happened is you had to go pay for the premium thing. So to me, because you were talking about Iron Fist for Netflix, and like how it kind of tanked a little bit.
I'm in the middle of watching it right now. I'm actually, myself, personally, am more into this series, Iron Fist, than I was with Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, because those two were kind of boring to me.
Right.
But Iron Fist is definitely more cartoony, more campy, and it's more... it's definitely not as serious as the others.
Right.
So and it's kind of cheesy at points, too. Like the stunts and what he's doing and his acting, but I mean...
Well, do you think that's because it was rushed?
No, I think it's because it wasn't rushed. It was just that people are now... Disney wanted to do something with Netflix, which, by the way, we don't know what they're going to do with it as soon as they make their own streaming service. Are they going to pull their contracts? Because they have The Punisher now coming out after The Defenders.
Right.
For the Netflix miniseries. So, I mean... You get this miniseries, you hear about this miniseries being made on Netflix. You're like, this sounds amazing. They're going to create characters. It's going to be like a miniature version of the Avengers. But they're characters you don't give a shit about. And they're in the universe, though. They're in the same universe, which I think is amazing. And I thought, we talked about this before, and you think, like, they're going to start mixing them into the MCU more. Like, you're going to see them cameos here in these movies, maybe. Or you're going to see something in the background that will help build it better, right? They're in New York. Where's Spider-Man? Where is Spider-Man? So why can't he make an appearance in episode or 2? Come on. I know they're trying to create the character, get a backstory why they're going to do this, but you're watching Iron Fist, and my theory why it bombed is more of the fact that it's the 4th one in line, and you're just like, all right, we get it. Claire is in every fucking show that no one else mixes in. Luke Cage is a little bit in Jessica Jones. There is some crossover here and there, but it's like not enough. And now they're going to make...
Well, I thought that was the whole point of the Defenders, was to bring those guys together.
Defenders, I haven't started watching yet. It came out. I hear it's actually pretty good. It went full circle, apparently, and made it really good. It tied everything together. But everyone's waiting now for that moment, right? So I keep wondering, like, when's going to happen. Like, Danny Rand is in the high state New York where Spider-Man's usually swinging around. Why isn't you just see him swing by? Why aren't you seeing like, oh, did you see this video of this kid, who's being or this person playing vigilante out there? Why aren't we seeing that? Like, where is this? I get like the comics you don't really see every day, right? But every so often they'll throw a character that's popular in just to get morale up.
Well, see that
because they're not entertaining characters.
No, but you're proving my point. I think that's why I appreciate your input on it, because that's exactly what I was trying to say, is Disney, through Netflix, decided to create more... I'm not going to call it all garbage, because, like, basically, it's almost like, oh, this is working on the silver screen, when we got all the Avenger characters, have individual movies, they come together, and it's one great movie. So someone's like, well, why don't we do that for television?
Which is a great idea.
And they are, and they're doing it for two fronts. They're actually doing it for the kids versions, and they're also doing it for the adult versions.
You think
on Netflix.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is for kids? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. I'm talking about the actual animated.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. So,
which Spider-Man is involved in that one.
Yes, he is, but it's a lot easier to cross over those characters in the animated world than it is in the adult world, because now you got to pay those adult actors. If you are truly trying to keep it in that cinematic universe and kind of make those initial tie-ins.
Correct.
But you're proving my point. As a fan, you yourself are saying you are displeased because you're taking all these random characters, you're throwing them into this world that they've already created, and they're not taking it to that extra step to make it special. They're just giving more cannon fodder, so to speak.
Well, not really, because cannon fodder would be contradictions to what they're already putting down. So, like, a lot of these the Netflix series shows are placing like right after the incident. So the second incident hasn't happened yet in the Avengers. So this is a timeline before that. So technically, Spider-Man may not exist yet. That's the thing. So I'm hoping that as soon as they get Defenders out, they get Punisher out, they'll start doing some more little crossovers. I hope we see some kind of cameo with them in the Infinity Wars 2 or something. I hope we do, because it's just like, you're creating these characters. Let's see them. Let's see them involved.
All right, so let me ask you this. Yes, I think visually speaking, it would do Disney more and Marvel more of a credit to see a television character be upgraded into a cameo in a silver screen type environment.
Yeah.
It's harder to get the silver screen to do cameo in a television environment.
They did
it with S.H.I.E.L.D., I know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, now here's the other thing is, do you think it would be more of a distraction for them to do that? Because now if you have the Punisher or Daredevil doing a cameo in a silver screen light, you're robbing the limelight from all the characters they've been building with those guys.
They're not, though, because they already built the characters. They already have them up. People already,
Right, but it's in a way they've earned the right to be on that silver screen. They've been there the whole time. Now last minute we're going to throw these guys in. It's
not like they're not going to pull focus. It'll just be a cameo in the background or something. Or they're going to say, like, oh, we have a team downstairs, like the Defenders. Like, we should... if they're going to call themselves the Defenders, if that's what's going to happen, they're going to be involved in S.H.I.E.L.D. somehow, because...
Let me ask you this, because I feel like we're getting a little sidetracked from our original...
Yeah, we are.
Because I know we're running short on time. I'm just going to ask you personally, as a customer.
That's deep.
Not as an employee to any form of entertainment, just as a customer. You're telling me you're going to be willing to pay for individual online streaming and or companies, or you know what I mean, like for apps or whatever the case may be. You're willing to pay for your internet and all these individual services because that's the only way you're going to be able to get it, or you're not. Okay.
I'm not comfortable with that, because I don't even pay for cable now, and I don't even want. No. I'm not. Okay. I'd rather not watch anything or wait till it comes on DVD. To be honest, I'll just wait.
Well, here's the danger of that, and this is a topic for another time. But my theory is their ultimate goal as a whole in Hollywood is to force the customers to no longer be able to buy hard copies of anything. My theory is it's going to be constantly streaming. Because that's the only way they'll continuously make profit.
Digital copies will be made still, but physical copies may not. But it'll be good for human society, period, because it's less trash and shit.
Yes, but okay, let me ask you this, though. The reason why prices on DVDs or Blu-rays are supposed to be higher is because you have to pay for packaging. You have to pay for the factories that make them. You have to pay for everything. But if you notice, the digital copy prices, they don't... counteract if you don't make all those products physically, you don't pay employees, you don't keep the factories running, the prices should in theory drop, and they don't. And now you're telling me like you're okay with that?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I haven't bought a movie in a long time.
Yeah.
So
see, there you go.
I'm a rare norm. I won't buy. I'm not a huge guy to buy stuff like that. So
that's fine. And some people aren't. But I will say this. I think, let's talk about Netflix for 1 second before we go. What made Netflix popular? What made Netflix popular was they got rid of all of the rental store prices. Like you go to rent a movie on a VHS or DVD, Blu-ray. It was
A
like
what?
$4 or $5.
A what?
A Blu-ray.
What was the first one?
Shut up, you. Listen, the point I'm making is, it would cost like $4 or $5. You'd have it for like a night or two, and then there's these ridiculous late fees and all this other bullshit. You had to go somewhere to do it.
Those were the
you know
days.
What I mean? But what Netflix did was they took the rental store and brought it to you, and for the price of what would have been 2 movies, you gained access to their entire media content. And it was for the first time ever, it was actually a company giving a service to customers that was pleasing to customers. And I think that's the thing that I'm most annoyed with is companies today, they're not really thinking about the customers. They're thinking about the profits they can make and the bottom line.
Of course.
And when you do that, I think you piss people off, and they're going to start to retaliate, and they're not going to always go to the parks. They're not always going to support your brand because they're getting screwed. Mm-hmm. Whereas if Netflix, let's say Disney moves away from Netflix. Let's say that even
they are moving with Netflix.
Well, I know, but let's say Warner Brothers moves away from Netflix. You know what? If Netflix stays the course and still creates their own stuff and still occasionally will make deals with companies that aren't as greedy and still supply a certain amount of material, I guarantee you they will win out. They'll have to. Because nobody else, there's only so many times you can watch an episode of DuckTales and before you say, you know what, I don't want to pay $29.99 anymore for this service.
It's not going to be $29.99, but I get where you're going.
That's what you say. That's what you say.
It's not going to be $29.99.
You have Pixar. You have
that would be crazy if they did that. That's a dumb price. They won't do it. They won't do it. They won't do it.
Oh, but you know what? They'll add games because you can also play games on that site.
They won't do that. That's too much, too big, too fast for their britches. They won't do that.
All right. Well, you've heard it here first on Entertainment Banter. I've made my prediction that Disney's going to put TV shows from Lucasfilm, Pixar, Disney itself, Marvel, and they're going to even try to. There's going to be a higher price than Netflix, and they're going to try to do something where they're going to add games to make up the difference. It's going to be a service other than just watching TV. I guarantee it. It'll probably be music too. They'll add music.
It is the month of August 2017, and you're hearing it first here on Entertainment Banter. But you're probably listening to this podcast in December, so who knows?
Either that or Disney will just buy Netflix and be done with it.
That would be the smarter route for Disney itself.
Yeah, unless they're not allowed to, because it would be a monopoly.
How would it be a monopoly? Hulu's still available, Amazon Prime's still available. It's not a monopoly.
Yeah, but those companies aren't nearly as powerful as Netflix right now. Netflix grew from nothing and started being its own, basically its own studio.
Yeah.
And then those other companies followed soon.
Yep.
And Amazon, you can say what you will about Amazon, but technically that's still a store. That's still like a Walmart.
Amazon Studio, baby. Amazon Studio.
Yeah, well, guess what? Maybe that Disney app will also become a store. And they'll try to take out Amazon.
Well, Amazon's biggest competitor right now is Walmart.
Right.
So, and they just bought, I was going to say Mrs. Gooch's, but it's Whole Foods. It used to be called Mrs. Gooch's. Fun fact. And they just said they're lowering the prices in Whole Foods too right now.
Yep.
So, but that's their Whole Foods is for them to have a store on ground level against Walmart. Gotcha. Which is weird, which is contradictory to what I was already thinking. It is totally not entertainment-wise. It is more corporate America.
Well, no, it's all the same mentality, same thinking.
But the idea was that a lot of stores were going away and becoming more online warehouses kind of thing, and that's the new change. But then now they're buying stores again to have a footing in the ground. Like, I feel like, I guess there's a medium between both. Like, you have to have a physical store for people to go to,
you know, what
a better online source.
It's everywhere across the board, whether it's media or stores. It's the perpetual recycling of everything. You know, bell bottoms were popular, you know, in the 60s, and then they became popular again in the 90s. You know, you got 3D television, or 3D movies with the blue and red tinted glasses, and then all of a sudden now you got 3D movies with projection screens that you have to charge these glasses, you know, in the 2000s. It's all the same thing. So, with that said, I don't know if we really came to any conclusion, but
Probably not. And we didn't even get to the Inhumans I wanted to talk about because that's another big thing about Disney and Inhumans and TV and IMAX and all that. But we'll get that to another day.
yeah, it'll be the next one, I guess.
Yeah, right.
That'll be the next one.
We'll probably talk about something
Yeah.
about Disney again somehow. Who knows?
Well, that's all we can talk about. They rule the world right now.
They're going to buy Hasbro. I hear it's happening.
Oh, shut your pie hole. Don't say that. Well, at least they'll maybe fire Michael Bay at least and do Transformers right for once.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you for listening to Entertainment Banter. This is Matt.
And this is Joel. I'm done.
If you enjoyed that one, stay tuned because there's another one.